Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of our game making experience. Not really giving it a title as such yet, so we'll have to go with that as we go along. Right, this episode is going to be less general waffle, so let's just get into it and let's carry on from where we left off. So, what do we have? Right, we was talking about Eventic, okay, and how it's a good thing to use as long as it's used correctly. So, what are we going to do? So, this generator, okay, we want to set this to run a tick, but we don't want it to run every frame. Now, Eventic runs every frame, so every time a frame is rendered, it'll tick, it'll tick, it'll tick. Yep. So each frame, tick, 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 tick. Yep. Simple, but that's too much for a simple little generator. Okay. So if we click on the generator base self, okay, we can come over here. Okay, and we've got start with tick enabled. That's fine, that's not a problem. We could start it with tick disabled and we can enable it when we activate it, but for now we'll leave it enabled just for easy purposes. Tick interval, this means it will run 0, will run every frame. Okay, otherwise we can set how many seconds this runs. The reason this is a good thing is because we can now reduce the intensity put onto the game by how often this does it. So if you're running at 60 frames a second, this will tick every 60 frames. If you put 1 second in there, it will tick every second. Now, so we'll leave it at 1 second now. Okay, so to be honest, that might be a good setting. Okay, it might not. We don't want to allow tick before play, but this is the only thing we want to say. Tick interval in seconds, we'll set to 1. Compile. And actually, no, let's reset it to 0. Let's set up a little bit of code to show you what happens. So let's go into our Eventic. Okay, it's grayed out. Just double click it to open it. It's grayed out, and right click drags, but it becomes available as soon as we use anything. So let's just do something simple. We're just going to do the debug's friend print string. Very good for when debugging, as you will see. In here we go, tick. Yeah, we can now show you this happening in game. Tick, 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 tick. Right, using a lot of power. Yeah, too often, way too often. Save that out of the way. So let's go back up here and set this to 1. This will now only tick every second. We'll compile and save back here, and then let's run again. Tick, 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 tick. The reason you can't see them is because they're delaying. It's the print string itself. It'll only show so many for so long because it's 2 seconds. If I said 5 seconds and then run it again, you'll see up to 5 on there. 3, 4, 5 every second. That has just dramatically reduced the amount of effort this code is going to run on tick for this object. Now, as the interaction is all going to be via the player, then this tick will only run every second, which is perfect because we say fuel per tick. It's going to be once every second it's going to calculate the fuel, which is enough precision. We could go higher, we could go 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds. That's getting a bit harsh, but what also that allows us to do, in a sense, is we could have some sort of overclocking method that all it will do is change the tick. Simple. Well, we'll sort that out later on. So, Eventic. What do we want to do on Eventic? Okay. We don't want to do anything here. Now, the reason I don't want to do anything here is because this is your event graph. You want to keep this to a minimum. You want to keep it clean, easy to understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. And basically what a function will let you do is run some code and store it in a different place, just so that it's not all cluttering up this blueprint here. So if we come to functions, click the plus there, and we're going to call this generator tick. Now, all we're going to do in here, if we click on this generator tick, we want an input. So for some reason it's not there we go, I had to click it again. So, and this input will be is activated. Yep, We'll leave it as Boolean because that's what it is. Yeah. So what's going to happen here is we're going to check if this is true or false. So we drag it off and we will do a branch node which automatically joins up for us. So if it's false, don't do anything. No, it's not working. It's not switched on. We know it's not switched on, so it's not going to do anything. But if it's true, we then want to work out what actually happens. So first thing we want to do is check the current fuel. The way we do that is we could do a compare. I think this is probably the best way to do this. So we want to compare float, okay? And the input is, well, the compare with is the current fuel, yeah? And what we're comparing to is the fuel per tick, okay? So what's going to happen here is we want to take this much fuel in this tick, and this is how much current fuel we've got. So let's set this up. So we want to use 0.001 of a litre every second. Yeah, that might be a little bit too intense, but you'll get what's going on. So we want this, and this is what we've got. So first thing we need to check is, have we got enough fuel? Now we know if that's the case because this will be bigger than that. Yep. So if this is bigger than that, okay, we want to set the current fuel. So set current fuel, okay, to 0. Okay. So we know that we're taking too much fuel. We haven't got enough left, so we're going to take it, and we're going to then deactivate it. So we're going to set be activated. Okay, that's, why did that not come up? Set be activated. Oh, okay. Let's just drag it in then. We'll go set from there. Okay. Have you noticed how the B's missing here? That's because it's something Unreal put in to help you identify booleans, but leave it nice and clean here. So basically, it's no longer activated. So the next tick won't call it because it's not activated. So now it'll say false, not do anything. Okay. So that's all we need to do. We've set the current fuel. It's not activated. Okay. There will be other things to set there. Things like if there's sounds going on, but that would all be done in separate sections. So if that is equal to that, it does exactly the same, because if you've got the same amount of fuel left as it is per tick, it's done. Now we want to modify the fuel, so now we know we've got less fuel wanting to be taken than what we've got in current. So that means we've got more current because it's this side larger, and that's smaller size than the fuel per tick. So now we need to deduct it. So to do that, we can use a subtract node. So we're going to subtract, and then we're going to set current fuel. Fuel. There we go. Get the right context, and it should be fine. So if you drag that into there, so this subtract will do it. So we can just drag off there, or could just create new ones. I'm going to drag off here and just tidy them up. So we want to subtract the fuel per tick from the current fuel. Let's just tidy these up a little bit. I'm not going to auto line them up. It's pretty explanatory what's going on there. You don't need to worry about it too much. So yeah, basically that is all we need to run our generator. What we're going to do now is test that in Eventic. So come back to our Eventic. Okay, now what we can do is get our generator tick, just drag it onto there. There we go. If it's activated, there. Okay. Now, how are we going to check that this is working? Well, we could just view it in the editor down here, blah, blah, blah. Don't want to do that. For now, let's use our friend the debug print. We want to print string. Okay. And we're going to give this a name, a key. We're going to call this Jen. Yep. What will happen is this will only ever update this part of the screen. So it'll have a separate section. So it'll say Jen, and whatever it'll do, it'll just keep repeating it in the same spot. What do we want to show? We want to show some text. So we want something called an append node. So append, so it doesn't actually come up straight away. So put a space and then string. So even though it doesn't say it there, it is a string operation. Now you can append a lot of things together here. So what we're going to do is say activated, and a space. Always put the space in at the end. Oh, activated. We'll put a space at the end. And in this one, we're going to drag in B is activated to there. It will automatically convert it to a string for us. See, that's what this node does. And then we want to add a pin, and then we want to put a couple of spaces, and then we want to add a pin. Sorry, at the end of those spaces, let's just delete them. Just make sure it's all empty. Right, a couple of spaces, and then we'll say is current space fuel colon space, and then we're going to do the same with our current fuel. Yeah, and then I always do that. We've put that return value in as the string. Okay, let's compile that, save, come here and press play. It's not activated, it's false, and the current fuel is 100. So we now shift and F1, click on our generator base here, and we're going to activate it. And as you see, every second it's taking 0.001. That's probably too much, too little. And then if we stop it, and it's false. Yeah, and that's happening every second. Yeah, that's probably too little a value. So we could test that here. We could put that to 0.01 maybe. Then we'll reactivate it, and as you can see, it's now going down a lot quicker. Yeah, so let's test to see if it works. Let's switch off the activation, and we'll change this to 1. No, we won't. We'll change this to 10. That should go down pretty quick. And then we're going to reactivate it. As you can see, it's going down 10 every tick. And as it gets down to near the 0, there we go. And it's turned it off. Have you noticed? Shift and F1. Activate is switched off. It's activated false. And it's reset the fuel to 0. And that's as simple as it is. That's a generator. Okay, now the reason we've got all those parameters is because they can be modified, and we can then use all those different things on what am I doing? Back to the generator. We can use those on any child that we make. So we can have a generator that's more efficient. So we could have the same generator, but it could be called the basic efficiency model, so that the amount of fuel it uses is less, or it could be a mod that we add on to do that. That's why we need those values. As simple as that. So that is simple. All that is really simple. We don't actually need this part. This is our debugging. We'll leave it on there for now, because we might want to do some other work on it. But that is our basic setup. Our generator tick, double click on it, and that's it. It basically checks to see if it's on. If it's on, it checks to see how much fuel we've got. We compare them. If we're trying to take more fuel or the exact amount of fuel that's left, it turns it off and resets fuel to 0. If there's more fuel in there than it requires per tick, it will just deduct it. That's it. Simple as. And the max power is what we'll pass to whatever is connected to it. So that's what we can look at next, is connecting things to it. how are we going to connect things to it? Now there is a few objects in this ready-made, and for now I'll probably just use the ready-made. There is a thing called a cable connector, and we can use that to connect from one thing to another. So we need to come in here, and what do we need to test this out? So we need two things. We need something to attach it to generate power, and we need some way of connecting them, and we need ports on here. Okay, so those are easily done. So what we're going to do is we're going to create basic object here. So what are we going to create? Let's create a light. Yeah, so come back in here. So we'll leave this open for now. We'll get rid of these. We're not bothered about the materials at the moment. Come to our content drawer. We're into electrical, and we're going to create a new folder called lighting. Yeah, into there, and we're going to right click, and we're going to create a new blueprint class. Keep saying that. And it's again type of actor, and we're going to call this BP light base. Yeah. It's an external. Oh, should we call it external? Let's modify that. So we'll call it a field light. Yeah, because it's used out in the field. Yeah, so we'll call it a field light. We're in lighting, so let's double click that. Right, so again, we have our default scene route. We're going to leave that there. I'm not going to mess about with that. So what we're going to need is some way of making a light. Now we can have different types. We can have spotlights, we can have point lights, we can have rectangular lights. For now we're just going to have kind of a spotlight effect. So we're going to just make this out of basic shapes yet again. So we want to add in now there's only those ones there, so let's just type it in. No, actually let's put a cube in for starters. There's our cube. Now we don't want this very big, so we want about a foot square, which is about 30 centimeters. So 0.3, and it's probably going to be about, I don't know, 5 centimeters deep. No, we'll make it bigger. I'll show you why in a minute. So we're going to make that bigger. So we're going to say 10 centimeters. Okay. Now, look, not 10 meters. 10 centimeters. Okay. As you can see, only 5 centimeters above the ground. That's how I want it. So that when I sit it on the ground, part of it is under it, so there's not a gap. You'll see why in a minute. So that's a cube. We'll click on it and press F2, and we'll call this light base. Right. Now what we need is the other component I was going to add next, which is add, and as you can see, nothing's there that says cylinder, so we want a cylinder. There we go. Just help if I don't put an extra C, and we're going to call this light pole. Again, it's really wide. Now what are we talking about? 10 centimeters diameter, so 10, oh, not 10 meters, 0.1, oops, we're doing it again, 0.1, so my mic's in the way. And how tall do we want it? 10 meters does actually look kind of cool, so we're going to bring this up, and we're going to put it there so it's half in, and as you can see, it's now a nice pole. So that doesn't look like 10 meters, maybe it is. That base there doesn't look like 30 centimeters, and that doesn't look like 10. It's 0.3, but the height is 10. Okay, very strange. Doesn't look like 10 meters compared to the, if that's the, oh, we want 30 centimeters complete base, don't we? So 30 centimeters complete is only 15 centimeters diameter, so 0.15, 0.15. That's more like it. Maybe a little bit bigger actually, because it doesn't look very sturdy, does it? 0.2, 0.2, and maybe not 10 meters tall. Let's bring that down. So let's click on the cylinder and we'll make that 5 meters tall. That's better. And we'll bring it down. There we go. Does that look like it's making contact? Yeah. As long as it's either going through or making contact, then we're fine. We need to slow this down again. Don't know why they've changed that. So we have now. We need to change the base as well. That's far too much to get. Well, no, we'll pretend it's concrete. Okay. So we now have a pole. How are we going to add to this? So we're going to need a plane as the light. We're not going to do anything special with it. We're just going to add a plane with the light. How are we going to attach this? So I'm going to add another cylinder at the top. So if we add another cylinder, okay, and this is the light arm. We're going to bring this up so we can see it. There we go. Put it at the top. So the light arm, okay, it's taking the object scale from its previous. So if I drop that on there, you'll probably find that it's changed its size. So you need to be careful of that. So the light base, the light pole, see how it's now become 0.02 and only 0.5 tall. We want that 5. No, we don't. We want that about 3 meters tall. So we're going to have. No, that's really, really big. Doesn't look like 3 meters. It looks a lot more than 3 meters, doesn't it? Let's have a look. That will do. Right, we want to scale this down. So the scale of this, we want roughly the same as the light pole, don't we? In fact, we do want the same. So 0.02 on the light arm. So 0.02, 0.02, and the length of it is actually okay. So let's come up to the top, and because we're locked to 10, we'll go to 5. See if that will do. That will do. Maybe a little bit taller, so maybe 0.2, and bring that up again. There. Right. And now what we want to attach to this one, so we will attach this time. We will attach a plane. So we click add and plane. And there it is. Bring this up. It's a little large. So we want this to be approximately 0.5 meter wide. And oh, it's in scale again, isn't it? So we need that bigger. So we're going to go with maybe half of that, maybe 0.25. Oh, I'm going the wrong way, aren't I? No, 1. So 1 is that big, so we're going to go for about 20. A little bit too big, bring that down to 15. There, that's more like it. And the width, probably 30. That's about right. And the wide doesn't matter because it's a flat plane. Flat plane. So I'm going to bring this up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this now, and we're going to rotate it up. Now don't worry about the fact that we've got nothing on the back. This is because we're just using basics for now. We don't need to really go into it. So I'm going to bring that, just that's too little, so we're going to have to set this to grid 1 and let that sort of sit kind of in front of there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so where's this pole come to? There we go. So there's that, and you can't see the plane. Yeah, that's fine. Plane. So we'll rename the plane to light box. Sounds good. So what we do now is get the light arm, and we want to rotate it. So press E on the keyboard and rotate it. But obviously, because the pivot's in the middle, this won't happen if you make your own custom object, but because the pivot's in the middle, it's been a pain. So press W on the keyboard and just kind of line it up. That's fine. And as you can see, because the other one's attached to it, it's fine. So what do we want here? What kind of light? Well, we'll try a rectangular. So we need to attach it to the light box, the rectangular light. So let's add a light, and we want a rect light. Now, as you can see, the rect light is facing the wrong way. And its sphere of influence is very, very big. Very big. We'll bring its intensity down because we don't want a lot, and the attenuation radius. So we want it to be able to shine down, just go a little bit further. So we need to rotate this now around axis. So press E on the keyboard, and then rotate this round. That looks good. And we need to align this to the front of our light box. So if we press W on the keyboard and bring that to just in front. Okay. Now we can change the sort width and height here. Now it looks like the width's okay, so the height is probably going to have to be about 32. We'll bring the width in probably about 56. Yeah, so it's just inside. So bring that, the 32, down to probably 48. Oh no, the wrong way. 28. There we go. That doesn't look too bad at all. Let me just, there we go, line that back up. They don't look too bad. There we go. Okay, right, so we'll compile and save, and let's just have a look at that in our world. So let's bring our light in and put it on. As you can see, it's lighting up the ground. Now I'm going to bring, if you hold control down and L on the keyboard, you can now adjust the light. There we go, just so we can see what's going on. As you can see, it's not tall enough compared to our generator. It's not anyway, but that doesn't matter. This is only for testing purposes. So there we have a lamp, a light source. Okay, so it's always on, so we need to be able to switch that on and off, don't we? So the simple options for this are, if we go back into our light, we will add in, ignore the components, let's hide them for now, and we're going to add in B has power. Okay, and that's a Boolean value, and we're going to say that is off, right? Has no power. And for now we're going to deactivate this light, and I think the visible will do. Should be fine. As we, oh, what am I doing? That's not what I want to do. Prototyping, and as you can see, the light's not on. Yeah, so let's Control L, bring that up a bit so we can see what we're doing. So what we do there is we now need to interconnect these. We also need to tell it how much power it takes, don't we? So we'll hide that so we can see it, and then this one, we're going to add a new one, and we're going to call this power usage. Oh, look at that lovely spelling. I love it, don't you? Power usage. Here we're going to have a float value, okay? And this is going to be per second, so we don't need to start telling it. So let's compile it, and this is going to be if our generator maximum power here we haven't set, so the maximum power is, say it's 30 kilowatts, yeah, and this light is it's not a very powerful light, so it's going to be 1 kilowatt. Okay, so we now need to tell it that it's connected. To do that, we need some way of interconnecting it. How do you do that, I ask? So we will do that in the next episode. We'll make power ports and hopefully a way to interconnect it all in the one episode. We'll see what we can squeeze in. Yeah, so at the moment we have our light, we have our generator. Yeah, nothing spectacular, doesn't do a lot yet. We know our light works, but it's switched off at the moment. We need to now tell it how to power on. So if it has power, it'll be visible, and if it doesn't have power, it will be invisible. Now normally I would use something called a notify on this, a rep notify, but for some reason last time I tried this it didn't work. For some reason it wasn't replicating variables. So matters not, we'll figure a nice way to interact when we connect and disconnect something. Yeah, we will also eventually have a switch on it, so that when it's clicked it switches the lamp on and off, so we don't have to unplug it every time. Yeah, sounds good. So anyway, let's leave this here. I'll save it all off, so file save all, and in the next episode, again, hopefully it should be all ready for you as soon as you finish watching this. We'll show you how. I hope that plane isn't too loud on your screen. I live right on the airport flight path. In the next episode we'll show you how to try and make some sort of ports to connect these up. So we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.